Mm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. It is time for me to put out a Total War Arena video. Now, I have been debating amongst myself whether or not I would post another video. My Total War Arena videos for some reason have done significantly better now that the game has been discontinued. I have no idea why. But I am releasing this as a Total War Arena video. I am looking forward to its return. There is a confirmed return as a China exclusive. Now here I am saying that I look forward to its return, sitting here in the deep south of America, literally on the opposite side of the world of where this game is going to be launching. Why am I excited about it? Well, I'm excited for a couple of reasons. One is just a genuinely great game, and I'm glad to be seeing it make a comeback in any form or fashion. I feel that this is a unique game to any other Total War title, and I feel that it's got more potential than any Total War title that they've released in the last decade, honestly, because while it may not have mod support like Total War Attila and Rome or anything like that, it's got a multiplayer element that's entirely different than any other thing that honestly, if it was explored to its fullest potential, could be so amazing. I don't ever expect it to be explored to its greatest potential for a long time at the very least. But I do find that it is an excellent game regardless of that, and probably the best Total War that they're going to come out with anytime soon. Having said that, I want to talk about some of the reasons why Total War Arena has failed, and I want to talk about its potential success in the future, what things would need to be done to make it a successful game, and also I'm going to talk about how this is going to be making a return to the channel. So, number one, I want to talk about how it's going to be making a return to the channel, because obviously that's a big deal. And I am in no way partnered with these guys, but there is you can spoof your geolocation of your computer using a VPN. It's not that hard. You can find all the steps to do it on the internet and all this other stuff, and of course, depending on who you use as your VPN provider determines the pricing, other stuff like that. But there is a particular supplier of VPNs, I guess is what you would call it, that I want to focus on here. It's PIA, so Papa India Alpha VPNs. They are highly recommended by a number of my friends who work through the technology side of the government, through the technology side of the military, rather, I should say. Here, they recommend it because they're reliable, they're good, and they're cheap. I looked it up, and you're looking at about $40 for an entire year. So, just doing some quick maths here while I'm texting also because it's on my screen, but doing some quick maths here, I'm sure some of you might even be quicker than me. You got about $40 divided over 12 months. You're looking at $3.33 roughly for an entire year of being able to have secure internet, and being able to essentially appear wherever you want, whether you're in China wanting to appear in America, or if you're in my case, in America wanting to appear as though you're in China so that you can play a game. It's a good way to get around some issues that come up with stuff like that. Now, while some of this gameplay I'm showing may not be particularly exciting, we're doing a 2-man death squad, me and my buddy Darkness. It's essentially spears and javelins. Javelins have huge AP, not necessarily all of range, but huge AP. They deal phenomenal amounts of damage, and of course, the spears with Leonidas can hold the line, as his tier 5 ability so states. They can definitely hold against any forces and any cav that would want to pick out the javelins. As long as he stays fairly close to me, they're gonna have a terrible time of it. And of course, he has his own caltrops to slow down their charges and stuff like that. But okay, now let's talk about why this game failed. And I put quotations around it. Why it failed in the Western hemisphere. This game ended up being grossly mismanaged by Wargaming. Creative Assembly, they made the game. It was originally sponsored with Sega, and quite honestly, it was a really good game. You know, it has its flaws like any games do, with the degree of balancing and stuff like that. And they're actively working on balancing it, which is amazing how much effort that they put into this game and modeling it, and the mechanics that go into it are way better and more in depth than any other Total War game. I don't know if you'll see it in this or not, but there's times where I'll form up phalanx, I'll go into combat for a little bit, and you see that yellow bar on the middle one right now. You know, the fatigue, how well they're performing is changing. You know, once they get over a certain amount, they don't perform as well. Well, you back it off, and they stay in formation. As they back off, they fight in formation. You know, it's just a wonderful system how they've got that implemented. But once Wargaming took hold of it, you'll notice that the amount of microtransactions went way up, and for the most part, there was no reason to purchase the special units, for the most part, because they were well balanced with the rest of the roster. They would always be, of course, a little bit better so that they would outperform. The only real pay-to-win thing, obviously, were elephants and the tier 8 myrmidons. The myrmidons would just wipe the floor with anything they went against for some fucking reason. Don't really know why. I never played with them, didn't have them. If any of you would particularly know why, I don't remember right off the top of my head why they were so good. But having said that, for the most part, they would stack up fairly evenly with whatever their counterparts at that level were. There are some exceptions to how certain units played compared to others. For example, for Rome, you could get Sarmatian Lancers. I think that's what they were called as their actual name, or maybe they was just Sarmatians. But they were more of a barbarian cav. Very fast, not quite as fast as their barbarian counterparts in the barbarian tiers, because they were more armored from being Roman, but they were still faster than Roman cavalry, faster than the Greeks, I think faster than the Carthaginians at that level, but slower than the actual proper barbarian cavalry. They fit into a very interesting niche position for Rome. Granted, I still would much rather prefer the, I believe it was a tier 8 unit, so I much rather prefer the tier 8 Legatus Cavalry is what I believe it was. I don't remember. I would have to go back and look at what the tier 8 was called. Legatus actually might have been the tier 10 Cav. Sword Cav as well, but tier 10 to tier 8 is not comparable. But tier 8 and tier 10 is really where the Roman Cav shines, because it's a melee Cav. But this isn't a Cav video, and it's not about cavalry. But Wargaming made all these units, but there was no reason to play them. Not particularly. So it became an issue of money, because they couldn't keep the servers running, and continue to output into the development of the game. So here's why I'm seeing an issue. Wargaming made troops that were essentially useless. Of course, and they didn't market it very well. If I'm gonna spend money on a unit, I need reasons to do that. Of course, they offered gold and experience bonuses to go with it and stuff, and that more than helps me to want to buy it. But I've still yet to see anything come into there that's really particularly making me want to buy it, you know? This game is such a commander-focused game, and I don't want to say restrict more to the commanders, make commanders cost more, which at one point they did do that, and I think that hurt them more than anything. Of course, they tried to give bonuses for leveling up and stuff like that to encourage people to play, and to also give them a way to get these other commanders and stuff if they grinded enough for them. So what is it that I think that they could have done better? Well, I feel that there was a huge mismanagement of their resources, for starters. They should have been much less focused on creating a bunch of premium units that people were not going to buy, and rather had focused on more important things. For example, you could have given the player base more experience bonuses, things of that nature, to buy from, more gold packs, more premium time bonuses and stuff like that. That would have encouraged people more to buy that rather than trying to push units down people's throats, because the units didn't really have too much to offer, honestly, except for key select ones. So I feel like a mismanagement of resources there. They spent more time trying to build these special premium units when they probably should have spent much more time actually trying to fix the things that were broken in the game, including forest spotting. You know, you're playing a barbarian, you're pretty heavily dependent on not being seen when you're in tall grass and when you're in the forest and stuff. But there were times in the game when you'd be in the forest and it would show you as being in the forest, and artillery could still see you from forever away. You weren't in like one of their special tower zones that would light up a portion of the map or anything like that. So vision in should be altered pretty heavily for the forest and stuff like that as far as gameplay goes. Of course, they were always had an issue with pikes and with elephants. They started trying to do something with the pikes, but what they ended up doing was making elephants way more powerful, because the only two counters in the game for elephants were javelins and pikes, and they made it to where essentially certain units, if they had enough mass and stuff like that, could push through the actual pike wall and get onto the pikes. which you may be like, well, that's not too bad. That was terrible, because the elephants have so much mass in a single entity, they could push right through the pikes. Now, they would take damage, don't get me wrong, they would take quite a bit of damage. And, you know, the pikes would get tired because they're in their pike formation getting tired and stuff, but the elephants would just plow right through them and do so much damage. And when you have only 2 counters to elephants in the game and you give them such a huge weakness, or such a huge strength, talking on the elephants here, that they can just push through the pikes, well, that's extremely broken. And from what the developers say is that when NetEase gets this in China, they're getting what Wargaming left off with, which will essentially be meaning that pikes are kind of used defenseless against elephants. And honestly, I think we're going to go back to a point where elephants are dominant on the battlefield in terms of their ability to just, well, control the battlefield. Now that's a scary thing to see, because you don't, in a game like this, you don't want a meta to be developed, and that's what happened. You would see doom stacks of elephants who could just push through the pikes here at the end. Granted, I mean, there was a point in time when elephants were so incredibly overpowered that, honestly, 2 elephants on a team, if the other team didn't have any elephants, and the other team has lost because the elephants were just destroyed everything. They had so much health, and of course once they got onto a cap point, they were capping it really quickly, but they fixed that issue, they moved forward. I feel like they made great progress, but when they changed whatever they changed on the pikes, I don't exactly remember the patch notes, guys. This was over a year ago. I'm not even sure if I could find the patch notes, but once it was said and done, they had essentially made elephants go from A tier back to S tier, essentially. And there was no good counters to them once you got into the high levels, because even javelins, which you'll see in this one, at tier 8, throwing javelins into elephants, granted he was throwing them into the front where they're most armored, rather than throwing directly into the side or the rear, which would be preferable of the elephants. But it took several volleys from 3 units to even take one out. So, and in that time, if they had actually been engaged in fighting, doing, you know, elephant things, I feel that they would have probably been able to kill an entire unit, or entire player's units, by the time one player managed to actually kill a single elephant. And that is incredibly powerful. So yeah, there's some things that they'll need to balance out, and I feel like rather than focusing their development team on making new units, and one of the things that they said in the patch notes about releasing this is, hey, of course they're making it Americanized, and they know that people are gonna spoof their geolocation so that they can play this game. It's just gonna happen. But essentially what happened was, he said, hey, you know, we're making this, we diverted some of our former teammates on over to this and stuff like this. They got pulled away from it, you know, we got people coming back to this, and what was that? Okay, I'm still recording. Okay, cool. But essentially what he said was, you know, we've got things going on with them designing new units and stuff like that. Well, you know, I'm sitting here thinking, like, you already have so many premium units already in the game, you've already got their files and stuff, unless, and it could be this way to where they don't let, where Wargaming is like, you can't use these or whatever, but as far as it sounds to me, they're still going to have all the same assets, exactly, same premium, same everything, basically, just in China, because that's the way the article sounded, is that essentially they're still going to have all these premium units that you can buy, that the Chinese can buy and stuff like that, which is fine. But if that's the case, then you really need to be working on more units. Now, here's what I'm hoping. what he means when he says that is he's expanding the roster that these factions has, that Carthage has, that Greece has, Rome has, and that the barbarians have. Is expanding the rosters rather than making new premium units, because making these new premium units is not going to help the game. They need to focus very heavily on developing the game as its mechanics. You know, they need to make it so that elephants can't push through pikes. They maybe even need to buff the damage that javelins do against elephants. Maybe even give javelins a specific bonus for when they're fighting elephants, or something similar to that they could equip for when they go into battle to give them a bonus. Because, you know, this game is partially about equipping gear, whether it's, you know, the Olympic runner feat, the shared rations, you know, sharpened blades, you know, better armors, sergeants, whatever it is that you equip. Shrooms, if you're a barbarian, you know, take some shrooms, get a little damage, get a huge damage buff. I fucking love that barbarians can do shrooms. But, you know, make it so that the javelins can better deal with elephants directly. Especially if you're going to keep it to where pikes can just be pushed through by elephants. Now, here's why I say that, is because you need something that can hard counter elephants. Everything in this game has a hard counter. You know, with infantry, it's range. Of course, you gotta talk about the balance of the commanders and this and that. Julius Caesar and Leonidas together make a powerhouse of a team. But having said that, the units themselves are all balanced. Swords generally will beat spears. Spears beat cav beat archers. Archers do a good job on swords, you know, the range. So there's a balance to it. And of course, you have some units that are outliers and stuff like that, you know. Like, certain cav does better at this role. Like, barbarians are fast, they're good at getting in the gaps, they're good at, you know, hitting quick, hitting hard, and getting out. Greek cavalry is good at zoning out other cav, and Roman cav is great for breaking the lines, and Carthaginian cav, their melee cav is absolutely good for absolutely nothing. It's absolute dog shit. I hate it. But they do have very good mobility with their multiple charges, and they could beat out barbarians. At the very least, they would lose to Romans and to Greeks in every other way, but they could at least beat out the barbarians a little bit. But once you got to their skirmisher cav, that's the only thing I can call it. It's their light cav, the Numidian cav, with their little javelin throws. I mean, I used them. I would take out spears head on, which I don't have any videos of me doing that, because I thought the game would be around longer. I thought I'd be able to get them up to the higher tiers to be able to show you some high quality gameplay with them, but that unfortunately never happened. But it's extremely different if you watch my cav gameplay. I have a tendency to just go in, break a unit, kill it. And Darkness was watching me play, and he said, "Man, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, because I've never seen you play like that." Because I would run at the front of the spears, and I would charge, having my javelin throw hotkey, which I believe was R. And, you know, I would charge at them. They would immediately go into their phalanx. I would already have hit R and had the selection arrow up. They went into their phalanx, and then I clicked it, and then all of a sudden they took javelins from point blank range, and it just destroyed a huge amount, and I was able to pull out before that they could actually do anything. You know, I could turn around, get my unit going the other way, do a quick little short charge out, and then I was home free. So they were really good at the mind games and good for supporting your allies, because you could run up close, drop some buffs, drop some debuffs, and run away. I like how they changed the point scoring system a little bit there at the end. I think that was a good move for the game. But I'm really interested to see where NetEase takes this into the future. And honestly, it really depends very heavily if they continue to follow that wargaming mindset, or if they switch it up and take a smarter approach, and instead of giving us a bunch of random ass premium units that none of us necessarily even really want, they start giving us things that we do want. You know, better premium access, more gold and silver, and you know, content like that we could get to help level up our units and stuff. Maybe even just unit XP boosts, you know, things of that nature that are specific. You know, it wouldn't level up your commander as well, but it would level up the actual unit to help you grind through some of the gear faster, because once you get up into the higher levels, the grind is real, folks. I think some pieces of equipment were, well, that I had ground out on my Roman cavalry cost me over 100,000 experience points alone. You know, so I think that if they want to monetize this, they need to look more into how to monetize it rather than to look at the obvious choice of units. I'm not saying don't include units, you know, include a few here and there, but don't make them horribly overpowered, because if they are, then they're going to become a meta, and it's going to be pay to win, and nobody likes a pay to win game, right? So that's why I say go with experience boost. And you think, you know, EA was doing something similar at some point. People were claiming, you know, it was pay to win and stuff like that because you get to advance faster. Well, here's the thing: if we're setting this off by rank 1 and 2 play together, 3 and 4 play together, 5 and 6 play together, 7 and 8 play together, 9 and 10 play together, it really doesn't matter. Yeah, I'll go through my equipment faster than you will, which will let me level up quicker and get to the level 10s sooner, but generally speaking, there shouldn't be level 10s going against level 8s, so it's really not pay to win, it's just pay to level up faster, pay to grind through these things faster. And honestly, I'd rather have pay to grind more so than pay to win. And a lot of people think that there's a line there, you know, but in this game I feel that it's less pay to win than in an MMO and stuff like that, where a lot of these pay to level up things tend to be brought into play. So, having said that, I feel like I've gone through most of my points pretty well here. I wish that I had a little bit more time, but I kind of cut off this video and I'm coming down to the last couple minutes here, guys. So, Total War Arena is making a comeback. Is coming back in China. What are your guys' thoughts on that? They said that they want it to come back to America, but it could be a year or two before it does. Who knows? Hopefully it comes back sooner rather than later. Until then, spoofing 100%. I want to know your guys' thoughts on things. Do you feel that the points that I've made are accurate assessments of the game? Do you disagree? Do you agree? What are your thoughts? What do you think that they could do to fix this game from where it was left off at? But that's really going to do it all for us today, folks. I look forward to reading whatever comments there may be. I hope that there are comments. But if there's not, so be it. Anyways, guys, I'll talk to you later. Peace.